Does the grass look greener on the other side? If you were really sick and you couldn't afford care at home, would you be willing to travel to another country for care? Or researchers are now showing that more and more people are traveling across national borders to receive medical treatments and transplants and other types of surgeries. And many go for treatments that they can't receive here that are alternative to mainstream, and others are going because it's cheaper elsewhere. So how do we know that we can trust the care that we're going to get in another country?
That's a really good question that we should be very concerned with, because we have the best technologies here in the United States. There's no question about that. And don't be fooled by the fact that because we're ranked 37th in the world on the overall quality of health care, that we don't still have the best technology. It's only because of disparities in how health care is distributed that we rank so lowly. But technologically, we're good. So to go to another country to get health care usually is done, Vicki, because what we're trying to do is find treatment at a lower cost for surgeries such as joint replacements and heart surgeries and dental surgeries of different kinds and cosmetic surgeries for the most part.
So why do some of the major medical centers like Harvard and Duke and Johns Hopkins encourage medical tourism?
Yeah, well, medical tourism is a business. And these institutions, if they can find a way to make money, they will. And so it's simple dollars and cents. It's nice that they're providing those services overseas, and they do provide them at a lower cost that's competitive with the other institutions that provide it. But they're there because it's business. Vicki.
So in other words, if a person has those surgeries here at Johns Hopkins or Harvard or whatever, it's going to cost them a lot of thousands and thousands of dollars.
If they don't have insurance, it gets very expensive.
So these big companies, actually they're like corporations.
They are corporations.
Are
yeah.
willing to take less money if the person travels to overseas.
Well, they're not willing
to get the same surgery.
They're not willing to take less money if they have the surgery here, and the cost for providing the surgery in a third world country would be much lower. And so that's it still makes profit, and it's about making profit.
So this is just the brutal financial nature.
That's the reality of how the
medicine.
world works. Exactly right.
Well, what are some of the risks? Let's talk about some of the risks of flying to another country, because when you have surgery there and you have to fly back, but also you want to check them out.
Well, for sure. The risks basically are, you're looking at the risk of flying after you've had a surgery, and when you're at risk for having pulmonary emboli and clots in your blood vessels, so deep vein thrombosis would be one. The other risks are, how do you resolve complaints if something goes wrong? Who do you turn to? Are you going to be able to sue some doctor or some institution? And how about the transitioning of care, back to the U.S.? That's another issue. Now that we have electronic records, it'll be a lot easier. And how do you litigate things if it comes to a lawsuit? You've got a big issue there.
And then there's this transplant trafficking.
Well, there's some of that, but you don't see so much of that in these good institutions. I think although
yeah,
you
but
never
we're
know.
not just talking these good institutions. There's a lot of other places that people go to get these surgeries.
Yeah, well, a lot of the places where people go now are like 5-star hotels or better. I mean, they're really very beautiful. I've looked into some of the places that exist there. And some of the doctors are very fine doctors, and there's no question you can get good health care there, but we just talked about the risks.
So if somebody wants to do this, wants to look into this, where do they start? Because you want to get a good doctor, you want to have a good procedure. Where do you start?
Well, there's an organization called the Joint Commission International that has supervision over 368 hospitals from 46 countries. And this institution does a lot to certify and make sure that they have a good track record, and that they're doing some of these things that we know you need to do to avoid the risks that go with it. So it's what we're doing.
Well, what are some of the countries? Where do people go?
They're going to, I would say, Thailand, India, Mexico, Singapore, Malaysia, Cuba, Brazil, Argentina, Costa Rica. There are 47 countries, 46 countries where medical tourism is a growing industry. And it's now become something that's become a competitive market where even, like you said, Hopkins and Harvard and Duke have now institutions in places like Singapore. So medical tourism is a growing industry. It really is a reflection of the fact that our healthcare in this country doesn't provide healthcare for everybody. We need to have universal healthcare. And when people don't have insurance and they need an expensive operation like a hip surgery, it may cost them $40,000 or $50,000 here. It may only cost them $5,000 or $6,000 if they go to someplace like India or Thailand to have it in these 5-star hotels. So,
But if you really are thinking about it, you need to do your homework.
for
Figure
sure.
out the benefits, the risks, research the offices. If you're getting dental work, you need to go there. When you do go there, go and check things out. And don't be afraid to come back home without doing it if, it's your health here. It's your life.
Yeah, well, I think people get pressed. They get frustrated. They can't get the care that they want here because they can't pay for it. And so they wind up doing this
Or
business.
get a recommendation from somebody else.
If you can,
that's
that's a start. But the main thing is to look at the Joint Commission International and see what they have to say.